Hello, everyone. Thank you for attending my talk. My name is Ian August. I'm the Assistant Director of Distance Education, and I'm also a PhD candidate in the Curriculum and Instruction program at St. John's University. My talk today is going to share some of my pilot research for my PhD program, the title of which is Professional Partners, a Study of Course Design Collaborations. Students deserve high-quality education. They sacrifice a lot to attend university and to earn a degree. This sacrifice can include time, money, and a loss of time spent with friends and family. I believe students deserve the highest quality learning experience possible for this sacrifice. Instructional designers are one group who have the opportunity to help deliver this quality through student-centered learning advocacy. This advocacy can occur while collaborating with faculty in the development of courses and happens specifically through course design recommendations that have the opportunity to improve the student learning experience. This qualitative multi-case study seeks to better understand the collaborative relationship between faculty and instructional designers. Deeper understanding can lead to stronger collaborations that in turn can lead to higher quality student learning experiences and more opportunities for liberation in the classroom. But what do these collaborations look like? What challenges are encountered during them? And how can we advance them to improve their outcomes? These are some of the questions guiding this research. Next, I'm going to discuss a little bit of the literature related to this topic. After reviewing the literature related to collaborative course design experience between faculty and instructional designers, a few key trends emerged. The value of communication during these collaborations is one, the expertise of instructional designers is two, and some common challenges for both instructional designers and faculty during these projects is three. Communication is an important strategy in course design collaborations. Constructing something together with at least one other person requires a back and forth, sharing of course improvement ideas, addressing concerns, negotiating ideas, and understanding differences. Understanding differences that occur with discussions and listening to how each participant feels about the project. Communication plays a strong role at all phases of instructional design collaborations. At the start, to clarify expectations during these projects through sharing of ideas, and after these projects conclude through increased discussion about course design among faculty. Communication early on in the collaboration can help clarify faculty expectations, define participant roles, and address participant concerns or questions. Many of these collaborations focus on helping faculty transition from teaching in person to teaching online. Quite a few faculty had not taught online or experienced online courses from a student's perspective. They also had limited experience in online learning environments. Faculty expressed concern with their lack of knowledge and wondered what the collaboration process would entail. Clear and open conversations at the start of these collaborations was a strategy used to clarify concerns, to discuss the overall plan of the project, to establish expectations, and to answer any questions. Participants found these early conversations helpful for forming productive teams. In one study, researchers discussed how communication allowed faculty and instructional designers in their study to create a new shared culture. Both groups entered a course design collaboration with very different values and cultures related to designing courses. Each group assumed their culture and values would lead the project. Prior to discussing these issues, the faculty and instructional designers ignored these differences and failed in moving the project forward. Communication was shown to clarify new concepts, avoid surprises and frustrations, and to share important changes with the team in another study. In one project, specific course design quality standards that faculty were not familiar with were used to guide the course development. Faculty reported the value of communicating early on and clearly explaining how these guidelines would be used. While instructional designers play an important role in enhancing quality teaching at universities and colleges, their role is still not well understood in many higher education communities. While faculty are experts in their subject and often not trained in teaching, instructional designers are experts in learning theory and online teaching and learning environments, which differ from in-person learning environments. Online environments have different governing rules. Instructional designers guide faculty as they transition into this new environment. These environments are new to many faculty, and they rely on instructional designers for their expertise as mentors who help faculty improve their courses, assisting faculty to function independently. Faculty often come into these collaborations unable to imagine how their teaching will look online and report at the end of these projects that they have a more polished course, they see improvements in their teaching preparation, offering the best course they ever have, and have changed their teaching, being open to new possibilities. Instructional designers also help faculty understand that they should think differently about teaching online instead of trying to do online everything that they did in their in-person class. Yet while instructional designers are experts, they do not have all the answers, and often will reach out to colleagues or review the literature when looking for course design strategies. Instructional designers also play a professional development role and the role of change agents by helping faculty see things in a new and transformative way. While most faculty reported having a positive collaborative experience with instructional designers, some language in the research described the process as a big challenge. For example, one quote was blood, sweat, and tears to get through. Another quote from the research said the creation itself was difficult. In one study that looked at artifacts like email exchanges between faculty members to understand their perspectives on a course design project, the artifact showed a challenge related to who to include in the projects and who should lead the projects. In discussing who should lead, faculty debated whether expertise was more important or a previous track record of being engaged in similar past projects. Faculty moving their courses online for the first time struggled to imagine how things would work, how to design and assess properly in a new teaching environment, and struggle to find ways to challenge students with real-world situations. Another study found faculty had a hard time envisioning what the course design collaboration with instructional designers would be like. One faculty assumed she would be learning mostly about technology. She grew frustrated and became disengaged after discovering her expectations were not correct. For instructional designers, two challenges emerged as trends in the research literature. The idea that their values were at odds with the faculty they were collaborating with, and faculty who were resistant to these types of collaborations. Some instructional designers reported faculty being skeptical and resistant to moving their course online and did not believe the online learning experience could match the in-person experience. Another study found conflict between the instructional designer and the faculty they collaborated with, and between the instructional designer and the organization's values. This led to an internal conflict for the instructional designer, who had to create a course that did not align with their values. This challenge has even pushed some instructional designers to think about leaving the profession. In one last study, light was shed on teaching values and philosophies and how different values place faculty and instructional designers at odds. They discussed 4 unique teaching philosophies, one being the transmission of knowledge, a second being treating students like apprentices, a third being nurturing student curiosity, and a fourth being inspiring students to change society. This specific study showed that during course design collaborations, the faculty who participated the least with instructional designers and with the course design process held their perspective of teaching as transmission of knowledge. So for the next section, I'm going to talk about the methodology used in this research study. A qualitative multi-case study approach was used to investigate the lived experiences of instructional designers collaborating on course design projects. I used semi-structured interviews of 2 instructional designers working at different universities. The criteria for instructional design participants was that they worked on course design projects with faculty within a year of these interviews to ensure their experiences were current and could easily be recalled. I wanted to hear the detailed stories from the study participants while having the opportunity to ask follow-up questions. Each interview lasted approximately 1 hour. To address issues of validity, I also wrote reflective memos for after each interview and during coding. I engaged in member checking by sending a draft of the findings to the participants for feedback and verification. Convenient sampling was used as well. Participants were located by reaching out to my network of instructional designers. I excluded colleagues at my current university or those with whom I had worked with in the past. I thought our current or future relationship might influence how open and honest participants would be when sharing their experience working with instructional designers. The participants were sent the interview questions prior to the interview to provide time to reflect on the questions and answers. In my first round of coding, I reviewed the interview transcripts and assigned codes to the text using thematic coding. I processed 1 participant interview at a time. After the first round of coding, for each participant, I generated 39 codes, which were then organized into 9 major themes for each participant. After coding for each participant, I looked across all the cases for similar and non-similar themes. Similar themes were organized into 3 higher level categories. In this last step of categorizing, rich descriptions from the transcripts were included as illustrative examples. This study identified 3 themes that play a strong role in course design collaboration between faculty and instructional designers. These will be discussed in the next section. The themes include collaboration strategies, building relationships, and challenges. So the first case study we're going to look at is an instructional designer whose pseudonym is Rose. Rose has been an instructional designer for 10 years. She brings prior experience as a faculty member to her instructional design role. She discussed understanding faculty, stating, in quotes, "I have been on the other side, being faculty and not wanting to open my course up to someone else," end quote. Rose works with about 75 faculty members per year. Some of her projects include multiple faculty developing a single course. Rose works on courses that are part of new programs being created, which includes fully online and hybrid programs. Most of her work is on new course designs, and about 20% of her work is related to one-off questions. She works for a unit that only receives projects that are part of a certain portfolio of programs. Her unit is not available to all faculty on campus. Programs that she works with are vetted and go through a market research process before her design team begins work on them. Rose describes her team's philosophy as, quote, "professional partners for faculty in the development process," end quote. She describes her ID values as, quote, transparency, collaboration, and establishing expertise, especially when there is not strong buy-in from faculty, end quote. She establishes expertise by speaking the faculty's language, scheduling around their busy schedule, and by supporting her design recommendations with research-based evidence. Rose discussed the value and her strategies for building relationships with the faculty she partners with. The instructional designers on her team tried to collaborate with the same faculty partners, sharing, quote, we already have the rapport and trust established, end quote. Being available and responsive are two strategies she employs to build rapport. Quote, you want them to associate you with being a helper, end quote, she shared with me. Rose also spoke about a strategy used by one of her colleagues, instructional design colleagues. Quote, I worked with someone who was a faculty whisperer. She tried to speak the language of the faculty member, making jokes, finding common ground, and trying to make a variety of connections. Rapport is extremely important to the ID instructional design projects Rose works on. Quote, getting to know someone really personalizes the experience, and it adds some accountability because the person does not want to let the instructional designer down because they feel a personal responsibility to this individual. I also think it helps with understanding. If someone's having difficulty in their family or a medical procedure, they don't have to give specifics, but you're able to understand that. End quote. Rose discussed one collaboration she started because the last instructional design team failed and were removed from the project. She described a very challenging collaboration. Quote, I felt like I was being thrown into an alligator pit, end quote, and she was able to turn that project around. At the end, the faculty involved told her, quote, you made a miracle, end quote. They built such a strong relationship that Rose said, quote, they know they can come to us with anything, end quotes. The faculty on this project had been working hard but getting nowhere prior to Rose taking over. Because the project fell behind schedule, difficulty and tension developed. Rose described the situation, quote, faculty were tired of working on things but not seeing results. I first gave them each something to do. I gave them a schedule. I converted their work to the learning management system so they could see their course was actually being built. They could see the work they did was not in vain. Once they saw this, the faculty started working harder and faster, and we got our courses done on time. It brought a lot of goodwill, end quote. Rose credits her background as a faculty member as being a key to her success as an instructional designer. Rose described her relationship with faculty as professional partners, highlighting the collaborative nature of these projects. Rose discussed how she was able to build such strong relationships with the faculty through turning around a failed project to that one day she met these faculty 8 years after the project ended, and they remembered her. So we're going to move on to our second and final case study. Marvin, also a pseudonym, is an instructional designer in the field for 18 years. He had a unorthodox career path like many instructional designers. He first started in technology communication, then moved into IT before becoming an instructional technologist, and finally an instructional designer. He is very satisfied with his career progression. Marvin receives projects and tasks in a variety of ways that is a little different from our previous case study. He is the liaison to one of the 3 colleges at his university, and he will work with requests from this college. He will sometimes receive formal project requests from the college he liaisons with. Marvin will also work on project requests from the online unit at his university. Marvin works on a third type of project, more informal, based on faculty requests. Lastly, he works on grants that are offered to faculty to redesign and improve their courses. With all these various streams, Marvin does not feel close to his work capacity. He is currently working on 5 projects while simultaneously solving smaller instructional design challenges requested by faculty. The vast majority of Marvin's work is solving smaller challenges. Marvin and his team will try to insert instructional design philosophies into all the work they do, even if faculty do not specifically request it. Understanding by design, backwards design, authentic experiences, and learning objectives are key components of Marvin's philosophy, stating, and I quote, "What are the assessments and how do we build a path to get them from the objectives to the outcomes we want them to do? You cannot expect students to memorize a 600-page textbook in 16 weeks. It is not very realistic. What are the major things you want students to walk away with? Think about what our students will be asked to do in the real world. They will be asked to solve a problem, so that is how I like to design learning." End quote. He traces this philosophy to before he became an instructional designer. He worked on an IT project when he realized, quote, "We need to help students realize they do have ownership and control in their learning, and we need to empower them." End quotes. Marvin is a liaison to a college where the faculty he works with teach in a discipline that Marvin also studied. Knowing the subject he is working on helps him build rapport. Quote, "I understand the concepts I was trying to get across to the students because, again, I have that background knowledge." End of quote. A collaboration strategy shared by Malcolm is to try to pull ideas out of the heads of faculty he works with to provide more context to students. He shared that a lot of ideas faculty teach are second nature to them, but it might not be as clear to students. Marvin shared a unique challenge, that being the mindset of the faculty he works with and how that might be challenging for students, sharing, quote, "Math professors approach math problems from a mathematical mindset. It is different from the engineering mindset. In some sense, they are teaching their students how to be mathematicians, not how to use mathematics as an engineer. There's a difference. There is a disconnect." Marvin spoke about his instructional design philosophy, challenging traditional models of teaching that ask students to memorize a large amount of content. Marvin placed a lot of value on his prior knowledge of a discipline that he now designs courses for, being one of the keys to his successful instructional design work. One of the main challenges he sees is the disconnect between how faculty teach a subject and what the students need to know. So now we move on to some conclusions. The goal of this study was to learn how instructional designers and faculty function in course design collaborations. The analysis of data identified 3 main themes: collaboration strategies, the value of building relationships, and challenges along the way. Understanding challenges during these course design projects and having a plan to mitigate them can lead to better project outcomes. A collaboration strategy shared by Marvin was his prior experience studying engineering and math. He predominantly works with engineering and math professors and feels his prior knowledge helps his collaborations. In my personal work as an instructional designer, I tend to research faculty that I work with and their discipline that they teach in. This preparation has helped me enter course design collaborations with some background knowledge, which has been validated by Marvin's experience. Solving a crisis went a long way to build relationships, as shared by Rose, who is called a miracle worker. The first step she took was to show the faculty some results of their hard work. This relationship was developed to such a strong degree that good rapport years after the course design project ended. I'm going to repeat that sentence. This relationship was developed to such a degree that years later, good rapport continued after the course design project ended. Rose spoke about being warmly greeted by a faculty member 8 years after their work together. Rose used some interesting language when discussing how she built rapport. Quote, being available helps build rapport, at least initially, and to be responsive. So when you get an email, they start to associate you with being their helper, end quote. Showing faculty your value and expertise as an instructional designer goes a long way to build rapport. Marvin shared a unique challenge, the mindset of faculty and not providing the students with what they needed, showing there needs to be more analysis of the students' needs during the instructional design process. It appears this is not being considered as much as it should be by faculty. In Rose's case study, the challenge of her being dropped into a project in the middle with very frustrated faculty who had been working hard with little results turned into an amazing experience and built a large amount of rapport with the faculty she worked with. There were not many details about why the project was failing, but it was obvious that Rose's skills and expertise were the factors needed to turn this project into a success. So some future research that I'm interested in is investigating instructional design practices, the philosophies of instructional designers, and compelling stories that can offer insight and guidance into the field. I'm also looking to investigate specifically the relationship component of these collaborations. Thank you again for listening to my research. Have a great day, year, week, and please reach out with any questions, any thoughts. If you're interested in being a participant in future studies as a faculty member who's worked with an instructional designer or an instructional designer, or you're an instructional designer who would like to collaborate on a project or just want to network or talk shop, feel free to shoot me an email. I love to hear from you.